Welcome, history seekers, to a journey through ancient ages. We witness a grand betrayal. How much is an empire worth? Can a sacred birthright and a holy blessing be easily traded? In the unforgiving deserts of Canaan, the answer is yes. A single bowl of stew changed history. Two twin brothers, bound by blood but separated by fate. One, a fierce, rugged hunter of the plains. The other, a calm mastermind hiding in the dark. This is the epic tale of Esau and Jacob. Born from the exact same womb, their lives forged totally different paths in the harsh, ancient lands. Esau arrived first, covered in thick red hair, declaring his dominance over the physical world. He grew into a fierce and legendary hunter, mastering the savage wilderness with his strength. The scorching desert sun beat down on his massive shoulders, turning his skin into tough, hardened leather. Armed with a heavy wooden bow, he chased dangerous beasts across the unforgiving, dusty landscape. Esau was a man of instinct, guided by the adrenaline of the chase and the scent of fresh blood. As the firstborn son, he held the ultimate family treasure, the invaluable, sacred birthright. This was not just wealth. It was a direct promise from God, granting him absolute dominion. His blind father, Isaac, adored him deeply, loving the wild, untamed flavor of his roasted game. Esau felt invincible, believing his brute force alone was enough to secure his royal future. He roamed the barren valleys with supreme confidence, ignoring the subtle politics of the camp. Every muscle in his body was dedicated to survival, to conquering nature itself. His hands, rough and calloused, gripping the bloody trophies of his labor, proving his undeniable worth. Yet, out in the vast nothingness, a man can only rely on his own mortal endurance. Days bleeding into nights, the relentless wind and choking sand began to drain his mighty vigor. A fatal arrogance was forming. He took his sacred inheritance totally for granted. To him, the future was just a distant promise, less real than the dirt beneath his weary feet. He cared nothing for spiritual duties, only for the immediate pleasures of the material. As a nomad, his kingdom was the open horizon, a place where actions spoke louder than deep thoughts. He did not understand that true power often lies hidden, waiting patiently for a moment of weakness. Esau thought the only enemies out there were lions and wolves, prowling around the barren rocks. He never imagined that the most dangerous predator was sharing his very own bloodline at home. The wilderness had taught him how to bleed, but it never taught him how to protect his own legacy. If you possessed total power and a guaranteed future, would you ever anticipate a silent threat? The sun sets on the mighty hunter, abandoning him to the freezing chill of the dark desert. Now he must return to the encampment, unaware of the trap slowly closing around his neck. His steps grow heavy, his breath short, exhaustion claiming every fiber of his formidable frame. The fortitude of the firstborn is about to face an unexpected test of sheer willpower. Meanwhile, far away from the dust and glory, a totally different world existed in the tents. The shadows of the nomadic camp offered a cooling refuge, a quiet, still environment. Here we find Jacob, the second-born twin, holding onto his brother's heel since the day of his birth. Jacob was smooth-skinned, graceful, and profoundly calm, preferring the security of the domestic hearth. He did not waste his energy chasing wild animals. Instead, he studied the weaknesses of grown men. A brilliant but dangerous mind, he analyzed every interaction within the patriarch's tribe. He was a master of patience, understanding that haste is the greatest enemy of ambition. Right now, he sits in the dim light, slowly stirring a boiling pot of savory red lentil stew. The thick aroma of earthy spices fills the confined space, a perfect sensory invitation. Jacob's eyes reflect the dancing flames, unreadable and deep, masking a fierce desire for control. While Esau was favored by their father, Jacob was intensely cherished by Rebekah, their mother. She had heard the prophecy that the older would serve the younger, and Jacob knew this truth intimately. He resented the unjust tradition that placed a brute above him just by a few mere seconds. To Jacob, the birthright was not just property. It was a divine decree of spiritual leadership. He was determined to seize the destiny that he believed he rightfully deserved by intellect. And so he waited for the perfect opportunity, a moment of devastating vulnerability. He knew his brother's impulsive nature was a fatal flaw, ready to be mercilessly exploited. The stew bubbles against the heat, a metaphor for his own silent but relentless ambition. He uses a wooden spoon to lift the thick red liquid, inspecting it with obsessive precision. This was no ordinary meal. It was a carefully crafted weapon of psychological warfare. In the ancient Close East, a shared meal represented peace, but this one held only subtle treachery. Jacob's demeanor remains placid and methodical, even as the tension in the tent begins to rise. His clean fingers adjust the bowl, preparing for a rather brutal domestic economic trade. There are no armies here, no clash of glinting metal swords, just the overwhelming fragrance of warm food. In the silence, he hears heavy footsteps dragging outside, signaling the approach of his broken idol. The moment of truth is finally arriving. The trap has been set with exquisite perfection. He pours a steaming portion into a clay vessel, ready to bargain away his brother's soul. The stage is perfectly prepared for a classic collision between brawn and calculating intellect. When crippling hunger clouds your mind, can you still defend the invisible honor of your ancestors? Esau collapses at the threshold of the shadowed tent, a pathetic shell of his former glory. His mighty bow falls uselessly to the dusty earth. The great hunter has become the desperate prey. Famished and dizzy, he is completely consumed by the agonizing pain in his empty stomach. He opens his bloodshot eyes, immediately captivated by the rich, red stew before him. "Let me swallow some of that red stuff," he gasps recklessly, too weak to even speak in proper sentences. He points a trembling, calloused finger towards the boiling pot, a beggar in his own father's estate. Jacob stands tall, looking down at the shattered giant, holding the steaming clay bowl just out of his reach. This is the critical juncture. Jacob does not hesitate, proving his ruthless strategic mastery. With chilling composure, he delivers the ultimatum that will shatter the ancient tribal laws. "First, sell me your birthright," Jacob demands softly, his voice steady as a sharpened copper dagger. The words hang heavily in the still air, weighing more than any amount of silver or precious gold. To demand the birthright was an audacious insult to their lineage, a treason against the patriarch. It meant surrendering the double portion of wealth and the position of supreme clan authority. Esau is caught in a terrible paradox. To live, he must eat. To eat, he must lose everything. His obfuscated mind, tortured by famine, cannot fathom the long-term consequences of this choice. He sees no value in an invisible spiritual promise when his flesh is crying out in agony. The smell of the lentils overpowers his reason, pulling him deeper into the destructive abyss. He is a slave to his own mortal body, a tragic victim of biological necessity. Jacob stands immovable, refusing to yield a single drop until the verbal contract is made. The brothers lock eyes, one gaze filled with wild, desperate longing, the other absolutely unflinching. This was not a brotherly favor. It was a cold, calculated extortion in a time of crisis. Esau sneers in frustration, his voice hoarse and broken as he mocks his own precious inheritance. "Look, I am about to die," he cries out, revealing his profound lack of faith and lack of endurance. "What good is a birthright to me now?" he declares, dismissing generations of divine blessings. With those rash syllables, he reduces his family legacy to the trivial price of cheap food. But Jacob is unsatisfied with just a casual comment. He needs an unbreakable agreement. "Swear to me first," Jacob insists, forcing Esau to bind his reckless decision with a solemn vow. Esau swears the oath, forfeiting his privilege to the smarter, younger twin without second thought. The cosmic order shifts. The invisible crown is transferred as the clay bowl finally changes hands. Esau snatches the bowl with trembling fingers, totally indifferent to the colossal loss. He devours the red stew with primal urgency, bread in one hand, slurping the hot broth noisily. Red drops spill over his unkempt beard, resembling the blood of the animals he so often slaughtered. His face shows nothing but animal satisfaction, completely blind to the tragedy just occurred. He gets up, wipes his mouth, and casually walks away, as if he hadn't just destroyed his destiny. Jacob steps back into the comforting dark shadows, a subtle smile of triumph gracing his lips. He now holds the invisible scepter of Isaac's line, purchased mercilessly with ordinary beans. The tension fades, but the monumental aftermath of this domestic transaction will ring forever. This bitter deal proves that brute strength always falls victim to patience, hunger, and a calculating mind. The patriarch's tent remained silent, holding the dark secret of a stolen destiny forever. Esau wiped his chin, entirely unaware that he had just forfeited the highest honor. He arose and departed the dwelling, his flesh satisfied, but his spirit utterly bankrupted. In mere minutes, the great hunter threw away the monumental legacy of Abraham. Jacob gently washed the empty clay bowl, his methodical mind preparing for the next step. He knew this verbal contract was only the beginning of a much larger, dangerous war. The true blessing still belonged to old Isaac, whose failing eyes could not see the deceit. A simple dish of hot lentils became the heavy price of a magnificent future empire. The aroma of the stew faded away, leaving behind an irreversible alteration. This ancient transaction reveals a harsh truth about human nature and blind, impulsive acts. When the flesh screams in desperation, spiritual wealth becomes completely meaningless to men. Esau traded his glorious destiny for a single, passing moment of physical comfort. He represents every soul that sacrifices eternal promises for immediate desires. Jacob, however, proves that calculated patience can conquer the strongest muscles in the world. He did not lift a weapon, yet he successfully overthrew his powerful older brother. The tragic tale of these twins serves as a profound warning across the centuries of time. One impulsive decision in the shadows forever shattered the ancient family line. Esau surrendered his divine inheritance for a fleeting moment of physical relief, securing profound regret. Was Esau a victim of basic biology, or a fool who despised the sacred? Tell us below. If you enjoyed this tale, please like this video, share it, and subscribe to our channel for more history.